To be a little bit provocative, I would say that the definition of democratization has to be going beyond your four walls. So I would argue only when you get beyond proposal are you even doing it, right? So certainly tons of opportunity. Alexis, welcome. It is a pleasure to sit down with you today. Microsoft and Responsive have been partnering for quite some time, and you have really pushed the boundaries of our innovation. We love that. So I am thrilled to have you today. I would love to start by just hearing a bit about the role you're playing at Responsive, and even just take me back in time a little bit around your career journey into the proposal space leading up to where you are right now.
Well, first, thank you so much for having me, Jennifer. It's good to see you again. So I guess just starting with my career journey, I fell into proposal management like so many other people, kind of by luck. I started actually in grant writing for nonprofits because I really wanted to make a difference in the world, and fundraising and development was really interesting to me. Eventually, I made my way back over to the private sector and joined Microsoft as a vendor, a knowledge management vendor supporting their proposal desk for business applications in 2018. So it's been almost 7 years since I joined Microsoft as a contractor before eventually joining as an FTE. And I have a communications background, so I also did communications at Microsoft for a while before rejoining the Proposal Center of Excellence to spearhead their AI innovation as the proposal acceleration lead. And most recently, my fabulous director, Carrie Jordan, moved on to a new opportunity within the company, and I was fortunate enough to be selected as her successor. So now I am the interim director of the Proposal Center of Excellence.
Well, what an incredible journey. And here's what I'm picking out of that story that you just told. One, having an AI leadership background and role has been a career accelerator for you. And two, communications. What an exceptional background, I think, really for any profession, but especially in the proposal space. So I absolutely love that. And we'll be talking quite a bit today about AI as a career accelerator and much more than that, as a company and growth accelerator. So that's where I'd like to go next, is really talking about how you have embraced strategic response management and AI in that context at Microsoft. You are the perfect person to talk about this because Microsoft is in the news probably multiple times a day now about everything you're doing with AI. So tell me a little bit more about how you're really embracing AI in the context of the work that you're doing with the team.
So it's wild to think that it's been about 2 years since Copilot was really announced at Microsoft. And I know that as soon as it was announced, everyone in the proposal industry started wondering, okay, how is AI going to play a role in the work that we do? And of course, being at Microsoft, we really lean into innovation and technology. And the team really started rallying around Copilot even before I joined the team as AI proposal acceleration lead to figure out how AI could play a role in their day-to-day functions. So it really started with Copilot because that was sort of the first space that we could really play around with AI. And we really just wanted to look at how can we use AI to accelerate the work that we're doing. We knew that it wasn't going to go anywhere and that it really was the wave of the future. And everybody really got on board with that right away. So one of the things that we did last year was we had a Copilot challenge within our team where we had little committees, and they all got together and came up with use cases for how they could use Copilot to accelerate the proposal process, whether that's doing competitive research, developing win themes, running deduplication across massive questionnaires, technical questionnaires the team has to fill out. And we ended up with 13 really strong use cases that we could replicate. And it was a way to sort of gamify AI, make it interesting and make it fun. And that's really where we started. And then, of course, we started looking at other opportunities to accelerate AI even more through proposal-based AI technology.
Well, I love the Copilot challenge and the way that you really organically identified use cases and kind of brought the team together in kind of little pods of brain trust around that, because then you get that buy-in. People are actually identifying and working on problems that AI can solve. So that is incredible. So you alluded to this, and one of the reasons we're talking today is because you're a responsive customer. I think a lot of people out there are trying to navigate all of the different types of AI tools and technology. So of course, Copilot, your very own, is one of them. And I would be shocked if you weren't using it, right? But you're also using responsive. And so there's room for more than one. Tell me how you're really looking at what technology is best suited for different purposes in the work that you're doing.
We knew through the Copilot challenge and some of the other research that we did that there were a lot of really great uses for Copilot. Copilot can synthesize tons of information across the web. As I said, competitive research, developing win themes, all of those kinds of things are great use cases for Copilot. So for proposal-based AI technology, we had a few use cases. One was going to be grounded in our library with more of a chat functionality, sort of that Copilot-like experience that people expect and are very comfortable with, but within the responsive interface. The other use cases that we had were for our own proposal teams as they're responding to bulk technical questionnaires, which can have hundreds or thousands of questions. We wanted to be able to just quickly run through and have AI automatically respond to that content to give us a really solid first draft. And then our most, I would say, ambitious goal was to empower our sales force to be able to upload their own questionnaires and generate a first draft, because our team of proposal professionals are amazing, but we are not able to support every single seller in Microsoft. And so a huge part of our efforts are around scale motions, like having the library accessible to to all of Microsoft. And so we really wanted that functionality to be available to our fields.
Well, that's incredible. How has the field responded to this? Because you've been really evolving quickly from, like you said, here's access to the content library to here's Ask, an interface where you can conversationally get what you need. And even guided projects now where they have the ability to, on their own, really complete one of these bids. What's the response been so far?
When we launched Ask, the feedback was amazing immediately, because to be completely transparent, as soon as Copilot really started to grow and more adoption was happening around that, people started asking, can we have a Copilot for the library? And so that's part of the reason we were so aggressive in wanting to integrate AI into our day-to-day and our scale motions. The feedback has been so great. I mean, people have been hoping for this, wanting it. The results, I was involved in testing myself. The answers that it generates you can tell, are based in truth. Our proposal library usage has gone up 60% since March when we turned Ask on.
Oh, go ahead.
So we are still in early days for piloting guided projects, but so far the feedback has been great. With AI Draft, we saw that about 70% of our questionnaires were answered. And then of that 70%, 50% were used verbatim, just as they were generated. About 15 to 20% were just slightly tweaked. And then the remainder, you could tell that the library was the foundation for the content that was used. So that is definitely beyond my expectations for an AI tool, especially this early with this much innovation happening in this space. And I'm thrilled, and so are all of our end users.
I love that. It's like you track data or something. We'll get to that later. But I love that you have memorized all of these stats. But what it tells me more is that as you've been really testing the technology, you're measuring the impact, you have expectations around what it might be able to achieve, and that's part of the way that you're driving change. So with everything that you've shared, what I'm taking from this is you are actually getting a lot more value out of all of this content and organizational knowledge that you're so carefully curating in your library. And now you've got the field with fingertip access. If they get ad hoc questions from a prospect or a customer, or if they need to actually go run a whole proposal on their own, it's really a testament to the value of that knowledge that you're putting into the system. How does the role of curating that knowledge and content evolve as you continue to really scale it to more places, especially to a field organization as large as Microsoft's?
I'm really excited about the future of content. I actually joined the team to help bring responsive on board. That was part of one of the first projects that I did. So the proposal resource library is very near and dear to me. It is probably one of the things I'm most proud of throughout my career because it has enabled now more than 21,000 users to have access to proposal content. And with AI, I think that there's even more opportunity to focus more on that strategic proposal-based content and a little bit less of the yes, no kind of technical questions that we do typically see in the software space because Responsive's AI connects to product documentation like learn.microsoft.com, for example. And so we know that it's going to be able to generate answers based off of that documentation, which means that we don't necessarily have to curate it and we can focus more on the really strategic and impactful content for people to use.
I love that. And you know what? One thing that this brings to mind, just knowing everything you've done with really opening up this access to the broader organization, in some research we recently did for our 2025 State of SRM report, we asked some questions around, do you have a centralized source of information, knowledge? And are you really kind of using that to branch out in other places? And the number of organizations who said they're doing that really well was woefully low. I want to say it was about a third. So what wisdom might you offer to the other 2/3 who aren't really investing the time in curating this information, first and foremost, but then secondarily really looking for ways to get more reach out of it because it isn't just an RFP. It's also all these other types of questions and assessments that you get regularly that are a part of every opportunity. What would you say? What would you say to the 2/3 out there?
Well, I was very surprised to hear that number, although it does kind of make sense. And I do have a lot of empathy, especially for smaller proposal shops, right? I had never been a knowledge manager or content manager or even really known that much about it before I joined Microsoft because so many proposal managers are everything. You're the content manager, you're the proposal writer, and you're the proposal manager. But now that I have seen this way of managing content and having a single source of truth, I really do believe it is best practice. Because to your point, yes, there are the RFP questions, but also just regular customer questions that a seller might get in an email so that they can just jump right into the library and get the answer they need. They don't have to try to chase to find a point of contact. On the other side of that is that point of contact. They don't have to field the same questions over and over again. And then people can have confidence that the answers that they're pulling are accurate, have been vetted. I think if you're only thinking about democratizing your content within a specific proposal team, for example, you're maybe limiting your view of the impact that you can really drive because opening it up to our entire sales team for whatever their use case may be, whether it's an ad hoc question or an RFP response, has really made a huge impact.
Absolutely. Well, and to be a little bit provocative, I would say that the definition of democratization has to be going beyond your four walls. So I would argue only when you get beyond proposal are you even doing that, right? So certainly tons tons of opportunity. And it's not even just sales. I think there are a lot of other stakeholders who can benefit from that information. Also, on the note of democratization, it actually takes quite a lot to have all of this information trusted, up to date, centralized, written in a compelling manner. And that goes well beyond your team. So talk to me about how you're really working with this fleet, I imagine an extensive fleet of stakeholders and subject matter experts, to really keep that knowledge curated and compliant and all of those other things it needs to be, such that you can branch it out to all these different places.
Yeah. So we have, I think, over 100 SMEs that we engage to keep our content up to date. And we have a team of dedicated knowledge managers who partner with those SMEs to keep content up to date. And truly, it is a team effort. Proposal managers, proposal writers, everyone's involved in keeping content up to date. But our SME relationships are so important. And kind of going back to what I said earlier, showing them the value of not having to answer the same questions over and over again, being able to point people to a single source of truth really gets people on board. They can quickly see the value of partnering with our knowledge management team to update their content. We have it set on review cycles, and we will chase people down, find whoever we need to talk to make sure that content's up to date, because it's so important that there's trust in the content that you have. And yeah, we're so grateful for our SME partners, because they truly serve as our trusted advisors in keeping technical content up to date and legal content.
And so much more, I'm sure.
So much more.
I like to say that you're just harnessing the brains or the brain trust of your organization and putting it in one place. And so even at Responsive, our chief product officer contributes and updates content. And I say it's like having a piece of Sunder on your call, and that's incredible. Everyone wants the chief product officer on their call. So I believe that's the power here, that, absent technology like this to both curate the knowledge and have the governance and control such that you can really do that and have those protocols with your stakeholders and have that solid foundation, then AI can help you branch that out into different places and make it more accessible. So they really do go hand in glove, and none of this happens without people's brains, right? And the relationships matter so much.
They do. And, we are constantly putting out calls for SMEs in our newsletters, and people raise their hands. They understand that value. And we have a path for if somebody says, I have some content and I want to get it into the library, they can reach out to us. So it's very much a free flow. We're always open to partnership, and it's been really successful so far.
Well, that in and of itself is actually a testament to what you have built, that you put out these calls in your communications and people get it and they say, I'm on board, sign me up. Yeah. So that, that's a perfect place to really go next, which is, even beyond the SMEs and the contributors, you've really got a system, and I mean that in a very positive way, for engaging different stakeholders. And you've even coined a term, capture, quantify, communicate, to really reflect how you are right-sizing communication and reporting, so critical, to these different types of stakeholder groups, including some of your senior leadership. Can you share a little bit more about what you're doing there today and how it's really made a difference for PICO?
Absolutely. No, I can't take credit for capture, quantify, communicate. That was my predecessor, Carrie Jordan, as well as our director of strategy and operations, Amanda Heather. And I know that they've done a presentation at BPC all around this. And I just love the way that they so succinctly describe what is so important about what we do. But I am very involved in capturing, quantifying, and communicating our KPIs now, because as you said, it does really show the value of the work that we do for our stakeholders. We actually have a Power BI that is exclusively dedicated to tracking all of the work that we do. from the deals that we work on, how many deals are submitted, revenue won, all of those things. And we also have it tied to our knowledge library. So we pull in how many answers were used. That translates to a time savings that we estimate of about 20 minutes without AI and about 30 minutes with AI. And then we translate that to a dollar savings. And that's what we use to communicate the value of having that knowledge democratization. So we tie everything basically to a metric. And we're really excited to start integrating. One of the things that we're working on right now is quantifying that AI impact. And I'm really excited about what that's going to look like.
I love that. And that's so critical with anything is show the value. And I think oftentimes with AI or really a lot of technology, the conversation can so easily focus just on efficiency. So that is a benefit that you're seeing. I know you're still building the rails for how you're measuring some of this, but what are some of the other considerations around total value beyond time savings alone?
So yeah, the time savings and efficiency is definitely important. And we are able to translate that to an impact to dollars saved. But I think what I'm really excited about seeing next is how that can translate potentially to more deals submitted. And that's really what we're wanting to see with guided projects, because we know that salespeople are busy and it takes a lot of time to fill out those long questionnaires. But if they have a way to accelerate the process using AI, then they can hopefully submit more and win more business. And that's really the goal with what we're doing with guided projects. And then for our internal team, I think about how they can leverage that time savings to dedicate more time to strategy and put together even more amazing proposals and drive more revenue won, and also potentially support more proposals. So that's really how it translates to that big impact, which is ultimately revenue for the company.
Right on. I couldn't agree more. It really is, you freed time, and what is that going towards? And this is often what comes up in these conversations, which is if consistency can be a good thing in this way, right? We're actually able to pursue more opportunities. And I think you're sharing that that's both at the level of an individual rep and even your own team taking on more. And if you're able to actually strengthen some of those relationships, really think through strategy at the front end, well, you might have a better shot of winning. So
Exactly.
More opportunities, higher win rate. It sounds like a pretty good formula to me to drive revenue.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Alexis, you have so much wisdom to share, and I'm sure we could talk for a very long time, but what's something you really want to leave the audience with today as they continue to accelerate the impact they're having in their careers and at their companies with AI?
I would really just encourage anyone who is even remotely curious about AI to just jump in. It's brand new technology, it's cutting edge, and that can sometimes be a little bit intimidating to people. But as my leader said recently in a blog post, and I just loved it, it's the worst AI that you will ever see is today's AI. And it's already doing so much so well, and it's only going to get better and better and better. And so jumping in now, learning about it, learning what it can do for you is just going to empower you as it continues to improve, and you'll be able to drive even more impact. So if you're curious about it, just get started.
Well, I learned so much from this conversation, and I would like to share one of my many key takeaways from this conversation, which is really the inspiration you provided around how to engage your team, especially when you're a leader of a team in the AI era. It's so important to get everyone involved. So I'm particularly excited about the work that you've done to mobilize the team to identify those core problems that AI can solve, and then get people working through that together, sharing that out, doing their work in public. That's how we learn. And you did that with that challenge you mentioned earlier, and 13 new use cases. That's incredible. That gives you a really robust AI roadmap. So I'm taking cues from you on that one. In fact, I already told my team we're doing a challenge of our own in just a few weeks here. So I absolutely love that. And I know I said just one, but the other thing that you said that really stuck with me was really just do it. Stay curious, stay hungry. Yes, the world is moving quickly, but you've got to be in that world. And that world involves AI. So, with that, thank you so very much for joining me today. And I look forward to our continued partnership.
Thank you so much.